Hey, Mike. So we've had a couple of questions on our Facebook page, and the first question is from Terry Hooper, and he asks, what changes have you seen in the field of hominology since you have gotten into it?
Well, some pretty dramatic changes, I'd say. Originally, let's say, back when, well, this all started, of course, in 1951, is when the term abominable snowman was first cast and thrown out there. And that's when people in the Western Hemisphere first started talking about these things, except for people who had actually had experiences, that is. But in 51, the footprints on Everest were published, and people started talking about the abominable snowman, and then, it wasn't long after that the Bigfoot thing happened, and the Sasquatch became better known also. People had been seeing it, but that's when we heard about them. And so, starting around the middle to late 50s is when people first started going out and doing Bigfoot research. But back then, it was a very small number of people who were doing this, for one thing. Very limited number. And very few who were doing it to any appreciable degree where you would expect any modicum of chance of success, because this isn't something you go do once and there you've got it all solved. This takes a lot of effort. Obviously, because these things are not like chimpanzees. We can't, predict where they're going to be exactly and go find them. It's not like that. These things are deliberately hiding, and they're as smart as we are. So, but the internet made a huge difference, and of course, that's what got BFRO their start, and a lot of other websites. BFRO was the first that I know of where you could actually go online and post your sighting report, and they had it all set up with a database and broken down by states and counties, and bingo, started the network of volunteers around the country. And so now you've got people all over the country who are tuned into this on a regular basis because they keep up via the internet, keep in touch with each other, and you have observers and people who are just paying attention in various parts of the country, so that when an event happens, well, then the BFRO, they get some kind of notice about it, one way or another. So everybody who follows them goes to their site and the various other sites where there are regional Bigfoot groups who are working on their areas primarily. That's what we do here in Santa Cruz. We have our own study group here in Santa Cruz County. We don't travel out because we can't do a museum and do that at the same time. When I say we, I say myself, Ralph Jack, and some of the volunteers in the area who help out from time to time. So we study just here. And then there's groups around the United States that are doing the same thing. So that's the whole deal. Before, it was a handful of guys out there whenever they could, doing it on a semi-professional basis. And there was guys like Roger Patterson, who made it a major part of their life. And I would say Patterson was the first, the closest thing to the first full-time researcher there's been. And of course, he had success. He got a film, which was, summarily denied, of course. But that's not the point. Now you've got people out all over the place with pocket digital cameras of various kinds and stuff going online, so there's some bad with the good. The internet has made it so that people can communicate faster, information can be shared quicker, but it's also made a forum for that much more hoaxing and all this negative stuff and all this deliberate misinformation that gets posted and planted as well. So the use of the internet has made Bigfoot studies a lot more similar to ufology than it previously was. So in a way you could say hominology has become a lot more like ufology in that there's disinformation now involved, and there's factions, and there's infighting, and all these different things happening, which was happening back then, but since there was only a handful of men doing it, it was easy to just laugh it off. Now it's more serious because there are so many more people getting involved in this. So hominology, of course, also the fact that it's now being that word is being used to describe it. That's the Russians started that that terminology. Here we were using cryptozoology. They're kind of the same thing. Hominology, I suppose you could say, is like a specific branch of cryptozoology that deals only with primates and with primarily with anthropoids. So there we go. And I think that the Russians, of course, coined that term, and they've had a lot to do with keeping this a viable subject, because over there it's not, it's given a little bit more serious attention in general, and it isn't relegated totally to a tabloid subject like it is here among certain media outlets. So they're a little more open to things like this in Russia. So that's what I would say about the current status of hominology.